Welcome to Amateur Redneck Workshop. I'm Harold, and today we'll just get on with trying to make the HDPE, which is plastic 2x2, actually 2 by 2.5 by 4. The closest I could come in a piece of tubing that I could get that with was a 3" by 5". So we'll have to trim off the edges once we manage to get that made, supposing that we do. And I've had a lot of good suggestions on how to keep the mold warm and all that sort of thing, and we're going to try to have the mold warm when we put the plastic in it, and then we're going to try to squish it down into the mold with whatever, I guess probably C-clamps or something, and from there we'll see what we get, you know. I think probably making the mold is going to be the hardest part of the job, and so that'll be probably the longest, most time consuming. Anyway, so after I did messed up last week, I showed you guys I was cutting a little slot in the rail here, but I wanted to put this optical sight. It's called what you call a red dot sight on there. And when I put it with the recoil lugs right up here in the front, and when I put the thing where I could put it in the first available slot, the back end hung out over this sight here and pushed down on it kind of hard, and you know, you couldn't turn the adjustment knob or anything. So I cut another slot in this rail for the recoil lug, and then I had a little mess up where the thing came, you know, loose in the vise and got a nasty spot on the rail. I've got a new one ordered, should be here any day now, and I'll just put that rail in the vise by itself, clamp her down good and tight, duplicate the spot I made here. So it was a $21 error, but there you go. I'm going to turn the camera around and I'll show you a little something. I got to thinking that it's possible some of my viewers are not familiar with the red dot sight, and so what you've got with the red dot sight is down inside there. Well, if you go the right direction to turn it on, I'll hang on. Okay, after a little fumbling, I got it where you can see the red dot, which is right there in the middle of the viewfinder. And the way you operate the thing is you put that red dot on something, and there, if you shoot, you'll hit it, like that basketball there. And it's a fast way to sight with a gun, and it's pretty accurate, and whatever that the red dot's on, you'll hit. Now this is not a laser sight. This is not making a red mark out there. See, you see there's no mark out there. This is not making a red mark out there on that basketball. What you see is a reflection from the screen here. And let me turn it off. I think it's off. Okay. Now then, the way this thing works, and I'll try to get my little pointer here, is that down here in the bottom there's an LED light, and this little knob here, right here, moves a plastic disc around in front of that light so that it will make a particular pattern. As you can see, this sight can have a pattern like this, just a cross like that, a circle with a dot in the middle, or just a red dot right there. It's what they call a 4 reticle sight. And yeah, it's still turned on. And what happens is this little disc is all black except for the holes that make those patterns. The light shines through that disc, hits a mirror, and is reflected up onto the screen up here. Now this screen is a multi-layer sandwich of glass or plastic. The two outside layers are parallel with each other so that there's no magnification or distortion, and you have a layer in there that reflects red light, and also on this you'll have a red layer that reflects green light, because this one will also go to green dot in there. Well, I think you can see it on the camera. Not sure. It sort of comes right across fast, doesn't it? But anyway, let me move over to the back to the red. It's easier to see in here. In fact, it's hard for me to see anything in here with these glasses we're seeing up close. I discovered I can shoot this thing without any glasses at all. Alright, there's a different shape to the dot. Get back behind the camera and see if you can see it. Darn if I know if you can or not. Well, it's in there. Alright, so I don't know if you can see that particular red dot or not. Maybe not. Anyway, that's how the red dot sight works. It's not a magnifying optical device. It comes with a little crank here to correct the windage, right or left. It's got another little adjustment right here in the top for up and down. So once you've got it zeroed in on something, and I zeroed this one in at 25 yards, you should be accurate just about everywhere. I think you can see the red come by a little bit, maybe. Get this viewfinder where I can see what I'm seeing. There it is. You see that's the round one. And right there should be just the common, ordinary, traditional red dot. I think you can see it there in the middle. Yeah, you can see it. Okay, so it's probably, once you sight it in, you should leave it on whichever pattern that it was on, because they may not be guaranteed to line up just exactly right when you switch from one to the other. So I like the little cross like that. I like that best of all of them. So that's what I leave it on. Alright, let's move on to our project. Alright, so I'm cutting it about 2.5 inches long, although I only want 2 inches of depth for this thing. And this little guy is 3 inches this way and 5 inches that way. That's more than I needed, but I couldn't get anything that was any closer to what I wanted. So like I said, I'll have to fill it up and cut some off. But I want it a little deeper than 2 inches so I can stuff something in there to squeeze the plastic down and make sure it's all homogeneous, you know, like all in one nice chunky piece. So, and that'll give me a little room to square it up from crooked cut that my bandsaw makes, although probably not important that I do that. It's just is neat, that's all. What I'd really like to do is to expand my garage. Let's say, I looked at all the different ways you can go, and I'm just about the property line on one side, and on the back there's not much room back there either. Have to go out forward. I'd like to put another 10 feet on it. But if I do that, the tax guys are going to come by and they're going to reevaluate everything, and I'll be paying for the improvement forever, not just the whole bushel of money that they get for doing the work, but forever more taxes. So that's why I'm squeezed here in a half-a-car garage and I'm not changing anything. But I guess I'm going to have to go and talk to a tax attorney and see just how bad how bad of trouble would I be in if I increased the size of this garage. I don't know. Anyways, it's something to think about. I'm not saying I'm going to do it, just more daydreaming, you know. You look at Keith Rucker's shop and you think, oh man, he's in heaven there, you know. And then you look at your space and you think, oh, this is really cramped. If I wanted another machine, wouldn't have any place to put it. I'd have to park the truck outside, and that wouldn't go over good with But it was ready, so there you are. I need room. Well, I think this thing's about through cutting. I'll wake you up in a second. Alright, so I barely was able to get that in the vise. That's about all it will open. And I put the good side down. That's the side that the metal supplier cut. They got this beautiful $50,000 that was $50,000 bandsaw that makes perfect cuts. My saw, on the other hand, has got this thing cut where it's downhill this way and uphill that way. And I've spent a lot of time fixing it, and I'll get it right in one direction, then when I try to get it right in the other direction, I get both of them wrong, and then I'll get it right in the other direction. When I get it right in this direction, you know, it's just, I either got one direction right and the other wrong, or both directions wrong, or, you know. So I just sort of give up, and if I cut something, I'll square it up over here. That's just the way life is for us rednecks. Alright, so I'll just make a little skim around the top there to clean it up, and then what I'm really here for, I don't really care if the top's all that crooked or not anyway. To be honest with you, it's not part of the function of the thing. But inside there, I think you can see inside there, you see that seam? I want to cut that seam out so that it doesn't grab hold of the plastic and hang on. So that's what we're doing here mainly, and I'm just squaring it off just for the heck of it. Maybe I can get some Lipton class points or some Randy Richard super good style points. Who knows? It could happen. This might be a little chattery just because it's, I don't know, the way it is. Closer inspection, it appears the $50,000 bandsaw didn't do all that good either. I've got uneven sides on both sides, so got to turn it over and work on the other one. Alright, I got this side closer to square. It's still not really good. It's low on this side, but I'm tired of messing with it. We're going to go down in this hole. Clean up that mess right there. So I may have to roll it over to finish it, I don't know. Quite possibly it'll work out like this. I can go down. So, got a unhook this thing, I guess, and roll it over or file out the last. I could just file out the last little bit, I guess, but I'll pull it out and see. Alright, I'm going to cut a little piece of wood to fit down inside that tubing. So, I guess, well, let me put the little table on there first. That'd probably make it easier. Little nap. Alright, now that I just trim it up a little bit with the band sander and it'll all be right. Of course the fun's not over yet. I've got this guy to reduce down to pieces that'll go in that little hole over there. So away we go with him. I'm trying not to point my hands in any direction that's in line with that blade. That's for your safety license. There, it was pretty well homogeneous right there. There's no cracks or holes or bubbles. It was really close to working. Alright, so on to the next step. Okay, that'll go into the hole. It's not a perfect, wonderful fit, but it will go in there, and I assume it will come back out. I hope. Well, there. So we're up to the next step, which is, of course, the next step is melt the plastic and put it in there. And I think, yeah, it's time, I don't know, we may do that tomorrow because I'm running out of time today. We'll see. Okay, so now we know what the sides and the top of the mold are going to look like, but we need to put a bottom on it. So I'm going to use this for the bottom. Yeah, I'm going to cut out a couple of brackets and screw onto it. It'd probably be faster to weld it, but then I'd have to raise the garage door and the humidity would get in. I could weld on it without raising the garage door, but then it'd probably give the boys in California cancer, and we don't want that, you know. So I'm just going to drill a hole in each end of this, drill a couple of extra holes in here, and use that for brackets to bolt this little booger down, and that'll seal up one side of it more or less. And if I can get it pretty well full of plastic, trim around the edges, I should have a good piece. So away we go with the drilling and threading and such. Alright, that's tapped, threaded, all that kind of good stuff. Still got to drill holes for the other thing, but we got to cut the brackets in half and then mount them on there first. Alright, that's how it'll fit together. I'll put a bolt down through there to pull down on it, but that's the general idea. So now I'll just mark this off here for cutting it, drill a hole and a hole, and you know, and then we'll proceed on from there. Alright, now we've got a box, and we can fill that box full of plastic. Got a bottom to it, all bolted together. When we get it full of plastic, we can squish it down to make it spread out and pop the bubbles out of it and all kind of things, and leave it sitting like that overnight to cool off. But we're not going to do that tonight. We're going to put that off because it's probably going to take me a couple of miserable hours to do that. So you guys take a break and I'll go take a long break, and I'll see you tomorrow. The mold is heating up in the oven, and we're heating this up here, the melter, and we will make another try to make a lot of melted plastic and see if we can't come up with a plastic 2x2x4, give or take those dimensions. This will actually be a 2x3x5 piece, but that's the size of the mold. And I'll turn the camera back on when the heat comes up. I had a thought. Yeah, it made me a little dizzy, but I did think on it for a minute, and I thought, well, if I'm heating the mold in the oven and it's just as hot in there as it is in my little plastic melter, why not throw a bunch of stuff in the mold and see if it won't melt down pretty good in there? Makes sense to me. That could be a shortcut to making a big chunk like this. Just throw it all in the oven. Yeah, there you go. I just set the mold out of the oven, and I'm going to try to squeeze it down here. You can see it's got, you know, pieces in there that are not fused together. But I'm going to squeeze them down a little bit and then put it back in the oven. I think that's the plan. I keep everything under it here good. I'm squeezing it down pretty good just by turning that screw. Alright, let's see if we can smash it together just a little bit. Fighting me coming out of there, but back to the oven. Just get it hotter again. Chances are I could have just thrown that big piece in there whole instead of cutting it up and just melted the whole thing, but I guess in smaller chips it might melt quicker. The heat can get to more surface, I guess, theoretically. I think it's time for another try at squeezing it down some. If this is going to be a regular thing, I need to make something to grab a hold of the wood. That's for sure. That's what we got so far. It's squeezing down. It looks like we're ready to squeeze it again. Squeeze it out right down there. Coming right on out. No funny remarks there, Pierre. Okay, let's go back to the oven. A little more heat. Alright, let's give her another squeeze. It's probably going to be about the right amount in there this time. I think. We'll find out, of course. Set this over here. Like that. Guy around it and lay it in the oven. I don't think the wood will catch fire. It's not hot enough, I don't think. Okay, so there wasn't room in the oven for it with the clamps and all, so I just set it right there. You can see around the edges of the bottom here the plastic was trying to squeeze out, so I'm pretty sure I got all the pressure on it there that I can hold. Little bits coming out down here, so if there's any air bubbles, maybe they're all squeezed out now. Now I think this is likely to take all night to cool, so I'll knock this off and go watch YouTube videos. Who knows? One of our top 10 might have something there. Alright, so here it is the next day, and it's time for the unveiling. That kind of come loose when I laid it down. If we get this block out of there. May not want to come out as willingly as I'd like. That is strong. So we're going to have to unbolt this thing. Looks smooth on the bottom. And you can see that it did shrink away from the sides. Shrinkage there. We'll just knock the little bugger right out of there if we can. Alright. I don't know if we can knock this loose. Well, we've got to trim it with a table saw anyway, so let me get the table saw out of the shed, and if it's not too muddy back there, we'll get the table saw out of the shed. It's been raining quite a lot. So, next step, try to trim it down to 2 by. I need to clean this thing up a little bit so that pieces like this, right up around in here, let's make it out of square. And so I guess Best thing to do is to just trim a little bit with a table saw until it sets flat. Well, that's as close as I can come to the dimensions we wanted. So I'll just have to ship that, and we'll see if that turns out to be all right. Alright, so at the starting of the video, I showed you guys this red dot sight and gave you a look through it and talked about how it works. Well, it doesn't always work. I took it to the range and practiced with it, and then next thing you know, I pick it up to use it. It didn't work. No red dot at all. I could get green, but I couldn't get red. Now, when I look through it, well, suddenly we've got red all over again. I'm sure it's there. There it is. Well, that's not reliable enough for competition. When I get up to my turn to get up and shoot, I want to see a red dot. I don't want to be looking at a piece of shiny glass wondering where it's at. Now I can tell you about this guy here. Look at the whole contour of him. You got the two screws across there, adjustment on the top, adjustment on the side, and oh, for all you safety Nazis, I'm not dumb enough to shoot myself with a gun, and besides, it won't hurt you. You're way out in video land. But look at that profile. Now if you'll go online, you can find this thing from $25 to $107. Different names on it, but just this exact guy. You look at that, and then you go do a little search, and you'll see you can pay from too much to a whole bunch too much for this guy. I've decided this is the second one that I've had that quit mysteriously on me, and then would restart and then mysteriously quit. I took the other one apart, how I knew about the little LED in here in the mirror. Excuse me. This one, I'm just going to stick it back on the shelf, and maybe I'll play with it from time to time. But if you're going to get a good red dot sight, you're going to have to get up around $200. That's at current prices. I'm sure someday maybe they'll come down, unless somebody decides to make them illegal or something. Anyway, I'm going to stick with the iron sights, and I'm going to stick with the Smith & Wesson, and we'll just do that until I get all the cash I need to get one of those really much fancier red dot sights that you can count on. I did a lot of web surfing, looked at a lot of red dot sight videos and such, and the guys that seem to be the most convincing or knowledgeable or whatever all say that you're going to have to put a lot of hours in getting used to finding the red dot, knowing where it's at, before you can get to use all the full advantages. It's a wonderful idea. Wherever you see the dot, that's where it's going to hit. You can get it on the target really quick, but it's got to work every time. Alright, well, nobody complained about my joke telling buddy last week other than to say that he talked too low. So we're going to let him tell a joke again today. So y'all remember, throw him a bone. Well, it seems like Bubba's uncle, third uncle Bubba, not to say that he had the number three of his uncles, but it was a third uncle that was named Bubba. Uh, that ought to be pretty clear. Anyway, they didn't use a lot of names in Bubba's family once they found a good one. Anyhow, Uncle Bubba went to the doctor because he wasn't feeling too good, and the doctor says, well, he says, Bubba, if you'd have come in a year ago, I might could have done something, but as it is, he says, you're going to be lucky to last out the week. So Bubba goes home, Uncle Bubba does, and tells his wife Elvira, the news from the doctor. And so she said, well, Bubba, just sit down there in your easy chair and take it easy, and I'm going to be in the kitchen. So she goes in the kitchen, and starts cooking up some cookies, baking them up, whatever you do. And anyway, so he got to smelling that, and he thought, boy, he said, Elvira, she must really love me. So he gets up and wanders off into the kitchen because there she is making his favorite cookies, And Bubba reaches out, grabs one of those cookies. She slaps his hand and says, stop that, Bubba. Them's for the funeral. Well, that's all, folks. Y'all try to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Leave a comment if you got something to say. And above all, remember, keep on keeping on. Bye now.